Welcome back to Reimagine 2021. I'm Yonah Hochhauser, and today I'm glad to be joined by Yonathan Lapchik, CEO of Suku. Yonathan, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, now for some of our know who you are, you want to give a little background, kind of who you are and how you got into blockchain?
Sure, yeah. So my name is Yonathan Lapchik. I'm the CEO of Suku. I'm originally from Uruguay, the small country between Argentina and Brazil. I'm an engineer. I worked for the first 8 years of my career at Tata, the Indian company, doing digital transformation, and then decided to come to the US to do my MBA. So I spent there 2 years at Duke doing my MBA. In 2012, I was always crazy about ideas and entrepreneurial and trying things. And a friend of mine asked me to join one of the finance classes where the professor was going to talk about Bitcoin back in 2012. I said, like, yeah, I have actually bought some in 2012, like just to play, and didn't know anything about it. And said, okay, let's try to understand it. And we went to the class, and that's where I got obsessed with Bitcoin, with blockchain. I really understood for the first time what was all about it. And after the MBA in 2014, I needed to do something with that obsession. So I left the MBA and joined Deloitte, the Deloitte Blockchain Lab in New York. And since then, I spent 4 years as the product lead for the blockchain lab. So we took like companies to come to the lab to explain them. At the beginning was just like, this is blockchain, like this is what it can do for your business. It was education. It was just like the blockchain world didn't even exist in 2014. It was Bitcoin 2.0. And that's where we got Ethereum. And after that, after 4 years, back in the altcoin craziness at the end of 2017, I said, okay, this is it. I'm going to leave Deloitte. And I was asked to join my last project. And I said, yes, so I'm gonna join you for a couple of weeks, and then I'm gonna leave. I was looking to actually create a fund with a friend of mine. Obviously, in 2017, everyone that made some money wanted to create a fund. They thought they could manage the money for someone else. And he was a trader in Colombia, and I knew the fundamentals. So I said, okay, this is a good idea. But then I joined the last project at Deloitte. And I fell in love with the team, with the concept, with everything that they were doing, and decided to drop the fund. We had some committed capital, but decided to drop the fund and join my last client. My last client is Suku. So Suku was the client of Deloitte back in 2017, and I've been here for 3 years. Yeah, actually, many of us left the lab to join Suku. So it was like 7 of us that moved to do the same thing. And so we've been working together for a while.
Mm-hmm. Well, first off, you had a professor who was teaching about Bitcoin back in 2012. It must have been a pretty cool professor. That was still pretty early on, and the academic community is notoriously conservative and slow moving. So very cool to that professor. But interesting that you were kind of working at Deloitte's blockchain. I wonder, especially in the early days when companies were coming in. For those who don't know, Deloitte is a famous consulting, accounting. They do quite a lot. If a lot of companies were coming in and you were kind of explaining to them the pros and cons of blockchain and why they should. What was the reaction to most companies that were coming? Was it like, like this is a new technology, we don't like new technologies? Were they excited about the idea?
Yeah. So first of all, the professor is now an advisor of Suku. So we went
there you
circle.
Go.
Yeah. It's Cam Harvey is the name. He's a genius. So what happened was the companies wanted to explore, right? Fortune 500 wanted to get into blockchain, but Bitcoin was a bad word at that time, and it was the only thing that they knew. So it was difficult to take them through. Hey, this is what you can do. Let's do something together. So there was a lot of implementation risk. There were a lot of concerns about what was the technology, how secure it was, and mostly lack of information, right? We just needed to educate people on what it was. So we went through 3 phases, like education, where we spent a couple of years just educating employees and clients. And then once they were comfortable, once they knew what was it, we moved them to a prototype phase where we implemented something in 2-3 months quickly, where we can show them results. and then they can socialize the results with executives and say, hey, this makes sense. And then potentially moving them to the production phase, where I think we've been stuck with the prototype phase for a while. Even after I left, we were still going through the production and mainstream adoption. But the problem was that we initially thought that the financial services was going to be the vertical where they wanted to get in, and we got a lot of interest from all the banks. The thing is, it was the riskiest investment from an implementation perspective, and also from a regulatory perspective. It was the one vertical that was going to be the slowest at the end, just because of the regulatory constraints that we had at that time. So they wanted to explore. They didn't understand a lot. We received crazy ideas. I can tell you a lot, but they were just exploring, and that was part of it. Yeah. Learning from it, identifying when blockchain made sense or not. Like, we said no to many things. We were consultants. The idea wasn't to implement blockchain for anything. It was to say, okay, this is the problem that you have. Yeah, blockchain makes sense or doesn't make sense, and we would say no, it doesn't make sense. Go do something else, but not blockchain, right?
And especially during that time, if we're talking about during those years, especially more towards the 2017, 2018 years, where it seemed like everyone was just throwing blockchain as a buzzword on their company. Even some companies got sued because they just literally added blockchain to their name. So that's never good. But so what was it about Suku that got you so excited? What did they even do?
Yeah, so in that implementation risks that we saw across the board, you had one industry and one vertical that didn't add a lot of risk from an implementation standpoint, but added a lot of value when you implemented it. And it was a great way to start in the blockchain journey. And that was supply chain, that was traceability. Like, everyone at that time wanted to do traceability. They want to track everything. Mainly because it was an easy way to get in. Like, you just implement an additional layer that will add a lot of transparency, and you don't need to disrupt any current operations. You don't need to replace any legacy systems. You're just adding another layer to provide more transparency and potentially get value out of it, or reducing cost, or get more revenues. So we were getting a lot of traction through that. With Suku, we were helping them design a supply chain solution. And to me, when you think about the value of blockchain, the value prop, and the issue that they're trying to resolve at that time, you think about trust, and you think the way that transparency, or what Satoshi gave us, which is this power to move from systems based on trust to systems based on transparency. And if you think about trust, is I need to trust whatever you tell me. Now, blockchain gave us the power to actually say, no, I don't need to trust anything. I just let me verify it. And that translates into a lot of different issues around supply chain and traceability. So we thought it was an incredible fit. And so Suku today is, its core is around traceability to accomplish two main things. The first one is help brands connect better with conscious consumers, and in that process increase sales. So how we do it, we help them produce more transparent products. We help them with traceability, with sustainability initiatives. But the end goal is to better connect with this new market of people that are looking for those products, but they don't have those products. And then the second goal is, through that process, is that we help the smallest participants on the chain to get access to microloans, things that they don't get access today, as an incentive model to get information for traceability. So I'll explain you in a bit, but everything is interconnected to create this transparent product by benefiting the smallest ones on the chain.
Right. So, like you mentioned, and I think so far it's proven itself that the best current use case for blockchain, in terms of where the technology is, in terms of actually implementing it, not just as in a concept phase, but actually production phase, we've seen that been the supply chain. That's so far, I think in the large scale real world, we see it. I believe it's Walmart has their trust chain, or their food chain. Food
chain,
trust.
food chain, yeah.
Yeah, food trust. Yeah,
Food trust. Yeah.
Yeah, food trust. IBM has their trust. It all blends in together. But that does seem to be the biggest real world one. And it's interesting. I never really understood, kind of why, if finance also has also a pretty good use case. But I think you nailed it on the head when you add in the actual implementation, the risks, and the regulatory factors. It does make a lot of sense why supply chain is so much better or easier to pull off than the finance world. So it's very cool. But when we're looking at the supply chain, you mentioned that adding in blockchain turns it from a trust-based system to a trustless-based system. Where no one has to trust anyone because no one could lie to the blockchain. No one could change anything on the blockchain. But something that I never understood was you can't change something that's on the blockchain. You can't retroactively go back and make any changes. But what's guaranteeing that the input that they're putting on the blockchain is correct? For instance, let's say supplier claims that this product that he's putting in is up to A standard, and really it's up to only B standard. What is stopping him from lying on the input into the blockchain? How do you make it a truly trustless system if still the input stage has to be trusted?
Yeah. So there's two things. The first one is that the systems that we create today are not going to be perfect. Are not going to be 100% certain, right? The idea is to get closer to the truth. So it's going to be much better than current systems, but nobody's saying that it's going to be perfect, because it's going to take years to get there. That's the first point. The second one is the importance of accountability. And for us, accountability equals transparency. The problem of garbage in, garbage on, that's a significant issue, of course. But when you have accountability, when you have someone saying, yes, that's true, and then the next person after you says, yes, I agree, that's true, and then the next person says, yes, that's true, you get closer to the truth, right? And you're accountable, because you're saying that Yonah has said that that's true, and if for some reason it comes back to you, you're going to be responsible, you're accountable. And we proved over and over that being accountable gets us closer to the transparency that we need. So the accountability piece, I think it is the solution to the garbage in, garbage out, because you're not anonymous in this system. And it seems to be solving a lot of the issues. And what we are proving, our goal is to prove that Yonah was the one that said that, right? Then the rest of the chain will have its way to actually verify something. And what I described, where you have like multiple people verifying what you said, is our manual verification. We also have verifications around technology, where we partner, for example, with the biggest NFC manufacturer in the world, Avery Dennison, a public company, where we put, if you say, hey, we brought this product from Chile, and how do you prove that it came from Chile? Okay, you have devices, or you have a way through NFC to verify the provenance, or to verify that something was broken or not. So you have a second layer of verification that gets you closer to the truth and verify if it was garbage or not.
Very cool. And like you mentioned, one of the reasons why supply chain made so much sense is because of how easy it would be to integrate, just to add a layer of blockchain on top of it. I can imagine that once on the supply chain parts, the parts of the supply chain that are, the big industry already, I imagine that once it reaches the hand of the Walmart, or reaches the hands of the big, the big players, obviously it's probably digitized. But I wonder, are there parts of the supply chain that are still using, pen and paper, that are still offline? And if so, probably at the beginning stages, probably the farmer stage, the producer stage. And if so, how do you then, or what kind of challenges do you face actually digitizing that aspect and putting on the blockchain?
Yeah, that's the challenge, but it's also the opportunity. Just to give you an example, we started tracking meat in Peru for one of the 3 largest retailers in Latin America, a $14 million revenue company called Cencosud, and we started with meat, with the idea to then expand. Now we're expanding it to other categories and in other countries. But we started with meat, and we realized, like, we went there a couple times and we met with every participant, and the producer was a guy that had, I don't know how many animals, But they were like, they had a manual process where every week there was a guy sitting on a desk with a book, just noting down everything, like the weight of the cow and the teeth and all that. So yeah, what we needed to do, and the biggest opportunity for us is creating systems that are easy to use. And I'm going to explain another one that we're doing now, that we're launching in a few days. And then we create a simple interface for them to understand, to just go in and fill some data, and then maybe they get a confirmation through email. They just click on one button and that's it. So that's part of the challenges that we have, but it's also how we think we can improve their lives and create a lot of efficiencies through that process.
Mm-hmm. And how do you guys actually do this? Is Suku a smart contract that's on an existing blockchain? Do you guys build your own blockchain? Is it permissioned or permissionless?
Yeah, so we back then, 2017, the only thing that existed back then was Ethereum, and then you had like other chains coming in at the time. So we had one requirement around privacy. If you think about supply chain, you don't want to disclose the information to your competitors, so you need privacy. And so we were working at that time with a team in JP Morgan from Quorum. So we say, okay, Quorum is a great solution. It gives us the performance, the scalability that we need, and the privacy that we need at the time. So we created a dual node. A dual node, Quorum is for private supply chain transactions. And then we have a node on Ethereum, public Ethereum, that we use for every payment. So every payment goes through public Ethereum to be self-audited, and then both nodes, we create a bridge between those to be in sync all the time.
Oh, that's actually very cool. They're using the combination of the public and the private node. Clearly, you guys know what you're doing. So that's also very cool there as well. And you know, there are a lot of other, you know, at this point, there are a bunch of enterprise blockchains like Hyperledger, you know, IBM's Food Trust, like you mentioned, Quorum. Do you see this? Do you see, you know, the enterprise blockchain space? Because, you know, for people who like blockchain, for people who are into crypto, they're mostly following the public blockchain space. You know, they're mostly, oh, I wonder if Ethereum will be the #1 smart contract blockchain. Maybe Polkadot, you know, will scale up better and therefore. But in the enterprise blockchain space, do you see as much growth, and do you see kind of because like you said, you guys needed a solution that was both private and that scaled. And at the time, Quorum was really the best one. Do you foresee that there continuing to be this kind of parallel blockchains of enterprise blockchains and public blockchains, or do you see kind of, you know, if there is a public blockchain like Polkadot, or it might be Ethereum 2.0 that actually does, you know, kind of check all the boxes, then and companies can actually just add their own little, you know, smart contract privacy or whatever it may be to utilize it?
I think it's a process. I mean, maturity is important. And when we started, we thought that the hybrid solution was the best way to get enterprises in, because you have the best of both worlds. You get the public side on payments, but you also have around privacy. They're protected and they feel safe. And I think that was the best way to get in, to get them comfortable into blockchain and exploring different tools. At the end, I think it's what's going to happen with the intranets back then, when everything was just permission, and then they saw, or they had the tools to actually do the same thing but on the public scene. And that's what's going to happen. Like, we have challenges around scalability, performance, privacy, that all are being solved on public chains. So I think they're going to be migrating to public chains after all, and I think these are just going to be exploratory phases. It's just a matter of time. It's public chains are gonna govern every single enterprise.
And especially now, when you're talking about traceability, you know, in supply chain, supply doesn't always necessarily mean a physical good. You know, many things use supply chains, including information. And so I wondered, especially now with the coronavirus, when it comes to testing, especially now when the vaccines are slowly rolling out around the world, you know, an obvious, you know, blockchain use case, especially for supply chain or information chain, It seems to be to me, vaccinations, whether someone actually got vaccinated, even tracing vaccinations, and not just that, but any other regulated thing. Pretty much governments put their stamps of approval on devices, whether they live up to standards, something like that. So, have you approached or have you been approached by different governments who are interested in blockchain to actually use for verification of various data or other supplies?
Yeah, that's a good question. We had an interesting year. In March, one of our investors asked us to look at Suku for all the issues that the government was having, from PPE distribution to the test kits. I said, yeah, I mean, we can put a stamp, a Suku stamp, and show that it's authentic, right? That's what we do. So we address two issues. One is the provenance and traceability and transparency. The other one is authenticity. Is this real or not? And then once you know it's real, then how it was produced. So we launched a solution with Every Denison, the NFC partner, back in, I think it was May, to track test kits and to track PPE. Specifically with test kits, you have an NFC, like a sticker, and then you would scan it. And the idea was for you to report directly to the government the result. At that time, we thought that the test kits were going to be in-home test kits, so you needed a quick solution to report instead of just creating or integrating something with the legacy system. You needed something quick. So an NFC was incredible because you couldn't clone it, and it was really easy to report. The other issue that we were solving, and we pitched this to the White House a couple of times actually, where at that time the states here were fighting for the supply. There was no supply of PPE. Like, if you have a supplier saying, hey, I have 20 million masks. Okay, perfect. Where do I send it? And you get the state of Florida saying, hey, I want it, and I want it for $3 a piece. And then you get California saying, okay, I'm gonna pay you $7, right? Not $3, $7. And they were fighting for the price, mainly because there was no one helping distribute the supply and say, hey, you go there and you go there and you sell it to that price. And the states were asking the administration to help them with the distribution. So we created this concept of, in the same way that you have US postal stamps, like you buy a stamp and that certifies that you paid for the shipping from point A to point B, you were buying Suku stickers, Suku NFC stickers. And when you buy it as a supplier, the government will be selling the NFC stickers, and then the supplier will receive the NFC. The NFC will have the information embedded on who's the supplier, if it was authorized, where does it need to go, and what is the price that they need to pay. So when the buyer buys it, then they check if they're playing with them or not. Just with that sticker, that will give us, we have a backend with analytics that will give you information on where they are, where are those being distributed, and it was fixing a lot of issues. So yes, that gave us a lot of opportunities around pharma. We're pitching a lot right now for vaccines and other use cases, and definitely was a great opportunity for us after that solution.
Yeah, I mean, I think if one thing COVID really highlighted how vulnerable or the issues with the existing supply chains of the world, especially once it started, PPE wasn't coming in from China. Since China produced like 95% of the PPE, then once China shut down their factories, there's a PPE shortage. States were outbidding each other, or bidding up each other, and there were a lot of headlines, of people even scamming the government, like selling the Department of Health, $50 million worth of something, and they were just people who didn't have anything. So I do think that if anything, corona pandemic did highlight a lot of the issues with the current supply chain, and hopefully pushes the industry forward towards blockchain solutions. I mean, that's what excites me, and I'm sure you're excited about that as well. But I wonder, you did mention that another part of your business is this idea of sustainability, of making sure that the supplies that you're consuming or the supplies that you're buying come from sustainable sources, come from fair treated sources. As consumers become more conscious buyers, conscientious consumers, they want to know where their products are coming from. They want to know that the farmer who grew the coffee is being paid fairly. They want to know that the fur was grown in a humane manner. So just like today, where if I'm in America, and most of the world, but definitely in America, if I pick up a piece of food and I go to the background, by law, it has to say the ingredients and it has to say, the nutrient facts. Do you see a world, in the future where, either due to consumer demand, so the private market does it, or due to voter demand, the government mandates it, that every product will have a QR code and you scan it and it will say, this is where all the components came from. This is, how much we paid the manufacturers, how much we paid the growers, yada, yada, yada.
For sure. I mean, people, when they look at, they laugh the industry laughs about like, oh, you're tracing a cow. Oh, that's great. That's a great use of blockchain. In reality, what people don't know is that when you look at the numbers, this is real business. Like, it's not like you're saying, oh yeah, people want to see what's in the background, like how it was produced. That's real. Like there's a Unilever report that shows that there's a sustainable market of $2.5 trillion. You have a group of consumers from that market that want to buy sustainably, that want to buy transparent products, but they're not doing it, mainly because there's a huge lack of verification. They don't trust the brands. These are mainly millennials. That group represents $1 trillion opportunity. That means that you have a $1 trillion sitting right there for the brands to take it, if they can speak the same language, if they can verify those claims, if they can regain the trust of those consumers. So we're not talking about like we're tracking cows and we're tracking wine and everyone's happy. We're talking about real numbers, and that's what we did with our clients. Like with one of those, we were able to prove and help them increase sales by 17% in 3 months. Wow. Just because we are now connecting them with a new market that is expecting that, and it's not beautiful stuff, it's not dreams, it's real business. And a lot of different companies around traceability have been focusing on the cost savings piece, like companies like IBM and others. They created a system to create efficiencies internally, to identify issues in real time. So when there's an outbreak, they can identify the party, and that's great. Like cost savings opportunities, that's great. We think opportunities around revenues are 10x of what they are in cost. There's a market that is looking for those things, and we are tackling that market. So yeah, governments have been in Mexico, where they implemented a new law where you have like a different label that shows you how much sugar, and it's pretty hard to read and to consume. So there's in China as well, and here in US we applied to a couple opportunities from the government to implement this in the whole country around food. So it's coming. It's not something that, I mean, that's the, even after the coronavirus, even more important, because now everyone is more conscious. You want to know who touched it, at what temperature is. So it's not a naive thought to think that this is the future, and you think blockchain is being used for this to actually create a lot of value for the brands and being able to connect two groups of people that are not connecting right now.
And I asked you at the beginning of this interview, when you were working at Deloitte, what were some of the hardest selling points of selling blockchains to companies? And you mentioned, how it was basically blockchain wasn't really known. It was just, kind of a Bitcoin blockchain, and Bitcoin even didn't have the best name back then either. So I want to ask you now today, because now you actually have a product, you're actually going to customers or potential companies and potential customers and trying to sell it. Has the reasons for them saying no changed? Has the sell become easier? Has their reasons for saying no changed? And is blockchain now separate from Bitcoin in their mind? And do they even care that? And do they even care that's blockchain, or is it just they don't believe in your business case? They don't say, hey, this isn't worth the money to buy it.
So we did. Every time that we pitch a client, we go through an exercise. If it's a new pitch, we go through an exercise, and we used to have like a box. Whenever you say the word blockchain, you need to put $10. you don't sell blockchain. Like blockchain is just an enabler. It's just
Mm.
a tool that you use to make something happen. For us, it's helping clients increase sales, right? And we decided to use blockchain. We could have used like anything else, like AI or whatever. So blockchain is not the driver of all this. Is an enabler. And so I can be talking to a client and they wouldn't know if I'm doing blockchain. In one of the other solutions that we are launching now, which is the DeFi solution, and I'm mentioning that because I think it's a great example. In the process of getting information from these retailers and brands, we saw that it's really difficult to get information from the last participant, from the smallest one, from the one that initiates everything, from the artisan, from the coffee farmer in Colombia, from the producer. So it's really difficult to get something from them. They usually have limited resources. And as an example, a coffee farmer in Colombia might have like 1 or 2 bags of coffee. So how do you get information from them? And that information is critical because that's the story. Like they are the story. That creates the story that allows you to create a transparent product that allows you to connect with that conscious consumer. So it's critical to have it from them. And so we saw that we need an incentive. First of all, now that I'm going to talk about tokens, and I know you made a joke at the beginning, but it's important to say that Suku tokens are not intended for US persons. So good disclosure, disclaimer. And I think when they provide us information, we give them Suku tokens as a reward. And at the end of the month, they might have accumulated $20 worth of Suku tokens, right? And that's where with one text, right? They don't have smartphones. They might have an analog phone. So we create an SMS solution. With one text, they text loan, and they get immediately a $10 loan, right? Mm-hmm. If I tell you all that, and that's how we actually getting information from the farmers, from thousands of farmers, that allows us to create transparent product, that allows us to the brand to sell more. I will tell you everything about it, and I probably didn't mention blockchain. I mentioned tokens because it could have been points. What happens in the background, you're not aware, you don't know, right? But what happens is we take those tokens as collateral, right? We put it on a DeFi protocol that we built, so we forked Compound, and then we get a loan from the market. Right, we give them USDC or any stable coin. Then there's a liquidity provider in the middle exchanging. If it's in Colombia, they exchange the stable coin for Colombian pesos, and they give them through card issuers. They give them a prepaid card with a loan, right? In that case, we are making DeFi real. We are creating real demand from real people that really need the loans, not just us that we are just in the collateralization just to get more APY and then move those assets to another protocol and then get more ETH and then more DAI. It happens that we are connected to those people. Like we are connected to the ones that really need DeFi, and we enable everything without them even knowing how to use crypto or tokens or blockchain. They just send a text and everything happens in the background. And I think that's a great example on how we need to remove the word blockchain, remove our thinking that this is a new technology. Let's just create value. Let's just deliver something a microloan. Let's figure out after how we do it. Let's give that value to the person that doesn't have an ID or doesn't have a bank account. Let's figure out later. And I think that's been our goal for the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, I love to hear that. I love to hear that because so much, especially in the DeFi space, it essentially up until now it hasn't done anything except been kind of like a game for the insiders to play, to yield farm. The average person is not doing any of this. The average person doesn't even know what DeFi is. Even if they heard of Bitcoin, they are not using DeFi. The average person isn't going to a bank being denied a loan and said, oh, great, I'll just go to the community and get a loan from DeFi. Exactly. So I do love the fact that you actually are putting real world loans, real world decentralized finance. It's very cool. But you want to go into a little bit how that works. You mentioned that let's say the coffee grower texts loan, and then they get a $10 loan. Who's giving them a loan, and what's collateralizing that loan? How's that working?
So let me say first, we launched this solution called Text Me Crypto, which is the foundation of everything that I'm going to describe. You can text, if you go to Suku, you can text a phone number from Israel, and you can send, the idea is to send or swap any tokens with a text message, right? So you can send to your friend that doesn't know anything about crypto, you can send Ben 10 Suku or 10 ETH, and then say swap 10 ETH for Suku, just in one text, right? It's a non-custodial wallet, and then basically you do everything through text. We focus on text because that's where our customers are in SMS. And so with the same infrastructure with Text Me Crypto, where you can send tokens in and out, and you can swap tokens in and out, it's that we create this loan function. And so the goal is when we receive the loan command, what happens is I'm going to take your balance in Suku that you have in your wallet, in your Text Me Crypto wallet, and put that balance. We'll ask you, hey, do you want to use the full collateral? And they will say yes. So we take that, we create a platform that we're launching now in a few days. That's called DeFi Loan, Suku Loan UI. And then basically, it's a compound fork, and people will go and add their funds in there to serve as the foundation for the loans that are going to be distributed to these farmers, right? So you could be staking Suku or USDC or ETH. And then what we do is we put that as the collateral, and we borrow against that collateral. So the farmer is doing everything just with that command. So we go to the DeFi protocol, we take the collateral, we take USDC, and then we send it to the farmer. In the middle, there's a card issuer, and there's a liquidity provider for each market, right? So at the end, they will receive a prepaid card with a $10 worth of USDC that someone exchanged for the local currency. And then at the end, they can say, you know what, I'm gonna use it, I'm gonna save it, or I'm gonna use it for whatever I wanna use it, and maybe I don't wanna repay you. If they don't wanna repay us, that's fine. We'll take the Suku that wasn't in collateral, then we'll liquidate it and pay the lender. If they wanna repay, then they will put money into the prepaid card. We take the money, we pay the lender, and we give them the Suku back. Next month, they're still adding information into our system, so we give them more rewards. Instead of getting access to a $10 loan, they get access to a $20 loan, and that's how it goes on.
And why do you need, this is such an incredible system you made that obviously you don't even have to be part of it. You could even just use it to get loans through text anyway, through crypto. But why do you even need to do this? If this whole point of this is just to incentivize the actual producers to adding information to the supply chain, if let's say the end producer is Starbucks, right? Starbucks is buying from this Colombian coffee grower. Why doesn't just Starbucks, every time the grower adds information to the system, Starbucks gives them $1 or whatever it may be? Why do we need this whole crypto loan system, which is awesome and cool to play with, but why is it needed here?
Because they don't want to pay them. They don't want to pay them, and they didn't yet put value to what they have. Nobody, like if I'm a coffee grower, the only thing I have is my bags of coffee, right? I don't have access to anything else. If I don't have enough money to survive this month, then nobody's going to help me, right? I cannot go to the bank. I don't have any credit worthiness. And so what we said is, listen, you have a lot of value. Your data has a lot of value. We are going to pay you in a form of crypto to give that the value that it deserves. And that's where you create an incentive through crypto with all the incentives aligned to have the token serve as the enabler of this information sharing while adding a lot of value to them. So Yeah, it would have been great for someone to say, hey, I'm gonna put like $100 million and I'm gonna give it to you every time that I give you information. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen. They're still not there. And so a huge part of our tokens are devoted to that.
So then that is great. So then what is giving the Suku token its value that anyone would want to use it as collateral, that anyone would lend against it as collateral? This whole system is dependent on people willing to give real whatever, USDC or whatever it may be, giving something that has real tied inherent value against the collateral of Suku. So what is giving Suku that underlying value or value at all to loan against?
It's tricky as we go through things that I might not be able to talk a lot, but the lender, as any DeFi protocol, they're getting an APY, right, that we don't provide. It's just based on supply and demand. The problem is that today, as I said, the DeFi protocols they're a great short-term opportunity and a great short-term experiment. It's difficult to see them survive in the long term without a sustainable strategy to drive demand, specifically for money markets, to drive demand from borrowers. And that's what we encounter. We found a way to bring real demand from borrowers that need it. And yeah, Suku is the enabler of all that. We are just connecting two pieces, but Suku is the one that unlocks that opportunity for the one that needs microloans. So now we're talking with a lot of different organizations that are looking to push that into their offerings, and they don't care about crypto or blockchain. They just care about these guys are getting a microloan, right? And you have the right incentive models to provide that microloan. So I think that's the value of Suku, being able to unlock those opportunities for them.
Very cool. I like it. If you're essentially creating an incentive because you're creating a market of borrowers that didn't exist before, and therefore lenders. Very cool. Very interesting. And so I wondered, you could expand this, way beyond even just the first people in the supply chain. I mean, it works great there. But once you have this model, then you could actually just really put DeFi into the hands of the everyday person, as long as you have these card issuers, these middlemen that are essentially turning into fiat. You're essentially opening up the entire market, the entire world to this decentralized finance. That sounds like a really cool idea. Are you guys launching this as its own standalone product as well?
Yeah. So it's we are launching the protocol as we speak, and we launched the SMS solution for the farmers. So yeah, it's a standalone. We have three main products. Omni is for traceability, transparency, sustainability. Infinite is to address authenticity issues for mainly luxury segments. And then you have DeFi, which is what we describe, which is the enabler of Omni. Omni and DeFi are connected to accomplish the same goal.
It's Infinite's the only one we haven't spoken about. You mentioned it's for authenticity for luxury goods. I imagine, right now the secondhand market for shoes, the basketball shoes, is quite high amongst many other markets. How exactly does that work? Is the product implanted with an NFC in the manufacturing stage, or how do you authenticate there?
That's a great question. We started with secondary markets. Let's put the example of sneakers, which is the first vertical that we went into. You have a lot of sneakers being sold in secondary markets. Like they're not being used. They're just being bought to actually then resell it to someone and then resell it to someone.
Sounds a lot like crypto, by the way.
Exactly. So you have, I don't know in Israel, but here in the US, you have a lot of platforms like Goat, StockX, Studying Goods. Their value is on authenticating sneakers. So if you want to buy a sneaker, I have a sneaker that you want to buy, then I will put it on the marketplace. And then when you buy it, I need to ship it to, let's say, StockX. And StockX will have a team of authenticators that would verify if the sneaker is real or not, right? And after they see if it's real or not, they will ship it to you. So that's their value. They're the middleman verifying that it's real before they sell it to you. Now, they have created this. What happens is, for example, you go you go and then sell it to your cousin, right? And then your cousin sells it to a friend, and you actually have a $5,000 shoe, right? And then I wanna buy it again, actually, because they created a market. It's like a stock market for shoes, right? If you actually go there, you would see like the prices going up and going down, and
That's crazy.
and sales and statistics about that. It's they're collectibles. Like now sneakers in US are collectibles, and so and I want to buy it. And the problem is I'm gonna go to StockX, and they won't know who was the last person that actually sold it to. Like once they sell it to you, that's it. They have nothing else to do. And we file a patent for this NFC that we designed and developed with our partner, where you put the tag on the roof of the sneaker. So the authenticator, in this case, StockX or Goat or Startup Goods or whoever, they can go in, they put the NFC, and that creates this concept of a title of a sneaker. Right? It could be the title of a painting or a handbag or anything that has value that doesn't have a title. I mean, if I own a $5,000 sneaker, which is not, it's not uncommon. How is it that I don't have a title for it, right?
Right.
And that I don't prove the ownership. So in that case, what we are doing is we are expanding the supply. Their business is all about supply. If they have supply, they sell it. So who has the supply is the one that's going to win. What we did here is we increase supply, but what we call the infinite marketplace. When you sell it, when they sell it to you, then you would use the infinite app and you would report and you would claim ownership. So now Yonah is the owner of it. And then when you sell it to your cousin, he will claim ownership, and then the other person will claim ownership. What's going to happen is that you're going to have like 50 pair of sneakers in your closet that you weren't interested in selling, but you immediately become a seller without knowing it. And you will receive an offer say, hey, you know what? Actually, there's someone in Miami that wants to buy your sneakers for $7,000. And you receive that through the NFC, right? So with this, we expanded the supply. We found someone that wasn't going to sell you a sneaker. Now we found that person, and basically we create that concept of title of ownership. And through the NFC, you can report it stolen, you can report it as missing, and there's a bunch of different services, but basically create that title through the blockchain, through an NFT. Actually, we're using NFTs to help them increase sales, while reducing the authentication cost, because if the sneaker comes in again, they don't need to authenticate it again.
Right.
Already in.
Yeah. That's actually a really cool idea, and a really great. Once again, it's a common theme I've gotten from speaking to you, is real world applications. It's not just conceptually. A lot of projects I speak to have really cool ideas that could work. You actually have ideas that are working currently. So that's really awesome. My only question is this: while it is great to have the middleman do that, why not actually just go to the actual supplier, go to Nike, go to Reebok, go to whoever's actually producing or manufacturing, and get them to put in an NFC at the beginning? I mean, it also adds value to their product as well, having that NFC built in with that tracking ability.
Yeah, we're doing both. We have both strategies. We go to the middlemans, and we also go to the brands directly. So we're working with a couple of brands where we go and not, in some cases, not using our NFC, but their own NFC, and provide them more services that it's all blockchain enabled and all that. And yeah, we're going through both strategies.
Well, Yonathan, it's so incredible speaking to you. It's always a little refreshing to speak to someone who's actually doing things on the ground instead of just speaking about it. So really a pleasure speaking to you. Those are all the questions I have for you. Now is your opportunity to plug any product you want, plug your company, plug your favorite song, plug your brother, plug whatever you want. Go ahead.
No, it's all good. Thank you for the invite. It's been an amazing interview. Hopefully we see each other in Israel, which I miss a lot. Hopefully see you around.
Yeah, looking forward to it. And if people are interested in your product, where can they find it?
Suku.world.
Suku.world. Awesome. Well, Yonathan, thank you so much for joining us and giving us a little bit of what's going on behind the scenes, as well as some cool things that are going on potentially in the world that you might not know about. I know I learned some stuff, and I'm sure our viewers did as well. So thank you very much And for all our viewers here at REIMAGINE 2021, I'm Yonah Hochhauser. Thanks for watching.